So, is it petty to affirm your primal question? So, for a little background, in case you've not listened to some of the other videos, that's where I talk about the 7 primal questions, which refers to a book of that title, and this idea that most of us have one main question. We also have secondary ones, but most of us have one main question that, if the answer is no to that question, that it's a major pain point for us. So it could be a question like, am I loved? Am I safe? Am I secure? Am I valuable? Am I significant? I'm not quite sure if I'm getting all of those correct, but those are among the types. That does my life have purpose might be one. So some of those questions are ones that people have. And so the question is that I'm posing now is it petty to kind of manage the outcome of that question to a yes? So let me give you some examples here. So suppose that suppose your primal question is, am I loved? And so you decide that you always feel loved when you're hugging a puppy. So you decide to get a puppy. And so that way that you can feel loved a lot more. And with that question answered yes much more of the time, you can be a much happier person. You say, well, isn't that kind of fake? I mean, it's a puppy. I mean, if it works, right? If it works and it doesn't violate any ethical boundaries. The one that's kind of interesting to me, because this I think is my primal question, is, am I successful? So if I get feedback from my environment that says, or internal feedback, internal thought loops that suggest that no, I'm not successful, then that is it's a real drag on my psyche. My energy, my outlook, my feeling around my own self-worth tends to go down substantially if I feel like the answer to that question is no. Now, it's easy to look at that and be like, that seems very immature, and and it's almost in some ways it's the most immature sounding of the primal questions. Now, other questions like, am I loved, am I safe, am I secure, those at least seem like, well, yeah, those are basic human needs. Successful, that's just ego-driven nonsense. And why do you have to get a yes to that answer? I mean, to that question, isn't that just some sort of prideful pursuit? And maybe I'll become so mature that somehow that primal question switches. But generally, I think it does stay the same throughout your life. So. Granted, if I was in an environment where I felt extremely unsafe, for instance, that question might take over for me compared to the success. In some ways, it feels like the am I successful question is actually a reflection of how blessed I am, that some of the other considerations, safety, security, love, whatever, all kind of come in second for me, if you will. But and I think too that you can also say that the am I successful is a little bit different way of answering the question of, am I loved, am I valuable? Because I think ultimately we want to know that we have value or are valuable or something along those lines. And I think the am I successful is kind of one way of asking that question, if you will. So maybe it's not quite as shallow as it sounds like at first. So going back to this question now, is it petty to kind of arrange things around you to make you feel as if the answer is yes to your primal question? So it is possible that if your primal question is, am I successful, that you can actually engineer your environment to help the answer feel like yes more of the time. Now, am I suggesting that you go out and spend lots of money you don't have on fancy surroundings? No. But let's say there's something about your house, for instance. So every time you pull in the driveway, you're like, that looks kind of nasty. If you repair that and make it look snazzy, and every time you come in the drive, you feel a sense of, my house looks pretty good. That may be a worthwhile investment because you're helping to reinforce the answer. You're helping make the answer yes for am I successful. Another way this can work out is in your work environment. So now currently I work from home, and so I think I've discovered one of the issues. Now I don't work in my house. We have a loft out back that I enjoy using, and it's great. It's quiet. It's easy for me to have conversations with clients generally. Unless the kids are running in and out for some reason, it's usually a very quiet, very easy place to work in general. But there's no one around to see that I'm working, to see that I'm being successful. And so it's kind of unique or it's kind of interesting. So the other day I went to the coffee shop, and of course, besides the boost I got from the caffeine, I think I also got a boost from being at work around other people, which this sounds okay. It sounds kind of goofy that this would actually work, but it did seem to help. When I had an office, when I was renting an office, 6 minutes from my house or whatever, it was in a fairly nice part of town so far as office buildings go, and while my office itself wasn't particularly fancy, the building was reasonably new, and it was a reasonably nice place to be. And I wasn't embarrassed to be, hey, I'm over on Nolan River Road, because that's a place where there's nice offices, So being there, there's other people in the office, so they could see that I was at work, so there was some reinforcement there that I am successful. Because I'm here, I'm doing my job, other people can see that I'm doing my job, or I'm working, I'm going to my office, I'm working, and I'm having conversations with clients, and there's just, so the am I successful question, I think, got more of a yes from my environment than what it does kind of by default now here working at my home office. Now, I could be making, I guess maybe the point is that there may be some easy ways to get more of a yes to your primal question that can help you be in a better state of mind more of the time. And it seems kind of crazy that a rational adult could be so affected by the environment, maybe. But we are affected by environments. And so I think the main takeaway here is just, think about your environment, think about your primal question, and consider how you could kind of re-engineer your environment to get more of a yes to your question, and see how it will help you to stay energized, on track mentally, emotionally, and hopefully able to do your best work.